Thank you, Susan, very, very much. It's next my privilege to invite, for the last time, Mr. Michael Dlugosz to the podium, who has been selected as the speaker for the class of 2011. Michael?
Dean Kane, Dean Severin, Dean Milling, members of the UB Council, Dr. Tripathi and Dr. Dunn, Trustee Lewin, our honored speaker for this afternoon, Ms. Denser, faculty, staff, family, friends, and you, the medical doctorate class of 2011, the largest, most extraordinary group of financial debt ever assembled under one roof. In all seriousness, what a privilege and true honor it is for me to be speaking to all of you gathered here at this special event, our very first official day as medical doctors. When I first discovered that I was chosen to be the commencement speaker this year, I must admit that initially I was a bit overwhelmed, not sure what I should and should not include. So I decided to go to some friends in the class for advice. Matt Pizzuto suggested I go with the speech Alan says to his buddies on the roof of a Las Vegas hotel from the movie The Hangover. Another suggested that I do something similar to what Patch Adams did at his medical school graduation, moon everybody. Brian Strollo recommended reciting Abraham Lincoln's 7 years ago address, just because he always happened to be partial to that one. Now, as profound as all this advice was, I decided to go with my own approach. I hope you won't be disappointed. So I thought it might be fun to take a quick journey through the years that we spent together, well, at least as I had experienced them. Now, don't be nervous, but I should probably apologize to the faculty present here in advance. Our medical learning all began 4 short years ago, back when we first attained that short white coat, when it was actually still white, without one of those single mystery stains on it. I knew I was in for it when I showed up within the first weeks of class. I was sporting my new Hollister t-shirt that my goddaughter Bailey got me for Father's Day. Across the front, the shirt read HCO for Hollister Company in big, bold capital lettering. I soon realized I was among a very special group of people after the 6th person came up to me that day to tell me how much they loved my carbohydrate shirt. We started the first day, and immediately upon entering the doors of Butler Auditorium, the calls began coming in from various family members about their medical ailments. My sister Jean even learned how to picture message me with one of the rashes she found on one of her kids. I quickly realized the confidence people placed on me solely knowing I was a medical student, no matter how far along I was in my schooling. One day I was eating a quick lunch in my apartment. As I was about to head to my typical spot with Joe in the health sciences library, I was interrupted by a frantic knock at my door. As those of you who remember where I lived during my first year can recall, I never quite knew what to expect to see behind that door. This time it was my upstairs neighbor, screaming, telling me that his girlfriend was in labor and about to have their baby. I was a mere 4 weeks into my medical schooling at that time. I looked at him, stared blankly for a few seconds, and muttered the only thing that came to my mind. You should probably take her to the hospital. Don't worry, my searches on Google have significantly improved since then. Our first year was spent mainly in the classroom. We met our very first patients in the gross anatomy lab. After spending hour upon hour with the same 8 group members assigned to the one body, a special bond was created like no other from the very beginning. We soon knew everything there was to know about each other, and we certainly would defend each other to the death as competition quickly arose to decide which table was actually the best in the class. Sure, table 1 gave us a run for our money, but it was table 9 for all those still debating. Test days would not be complete without Mike Schreck wearing his usual bright orange t-shirt that very fittingly read, "Guns don't kill people, I kill people." By the time I was done appreciating Mike's shirt, I could look up to see Rachel Flink already heading to the front of the room to turn in her completed exam. And finally, who could forget Nolan's hair, appropriately styled to the likings of Jimmy Neutron, always seen after a solid 1-hour sleep on the very cozy path lab table that night before. Then came second year. We were growing more accustomed to the medical student life, or lack thereof. I recall a particular pathology lab during my pulmonary module. I was sitting there looking at specimens of small cell lung cancers through my microscope, innocently minding my own business, as I always did, when suddenly I felt a sprinkle, and that sprinkle quickly turned into a shower. And I looked up, and there was Amita, intently examining a human lung specimen, fixed in a jar filled with formaldehyde, over my head and upside down. I quickly forgave her that day, but Amita, now we're even. Just when we had the classroom scene down, our third year was sprung upon us, the clinical years, our very first contact with healing, both physically and mentally, our very first contact with new life and with death, our very first contact with 24-hour calls. I'll never forget the sound of the helicopter landing at ECMC, that thrill of rushing to the OR for an exploratory laparotomy to fix the consequences of a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Once I scrubbed in with a surgeon who told me that there's really only two ways a medical student can cut a suture: too long and too short. Likely why I ultimately decided on family medicine as my career choice. I recall one particular day on my OBGYN rotation. I had scrubbed in on my fourth case with the same surgeon that day, and so we had gotten to know each other pretty well. On the last case, I had gained her confidence enough for her to let me close the incision. I was about halfway through sewing, and the surgeon asked if I was attached. I looked down at my sutures and then at my needles, simply said no, and continued working. Again, the surgeon asked, no, are you attached? I took a step back from the surgical field, making sure I remained sterile, and looked up to find the scrub nurse, laughing hysterically, stopping only enough to say, "Doctor, stop hitting on the medical student." Apparently, she was doing some investigative work for her daughter, and I was too dumb to realize. I learned early in my third year the true therapeutic power of humor. A patient presented with a suspected rupture of an abdominal aortic aneurysm to the emergency room. As I helped with the patient's hurried transport to the CT scanner, she pulled me in closer to her on the gurney. Likely seeing the concerned look I had on my own face, she then asked a question I was least expecting in the severity of the situation at hand. She asked, "Do you think I should smile for the imaging?" Knowing the severity of her own condition, being a former nurse herself, the patient's use of humor had astounded me. At that point, I could only reply yes to her query as a smile returned to my own face. Her imaging results were unfortunately positive for the ruptured AAA, and we soon rushed her to the OR for the vascular repair. But in evidence of how strong of a woman she was, the patient survived the surgery, when most do not even survive the initial trip to the hospital. As American writer William Arthur Ward once wrote, "A well-developed sense of humor is the pole that adds balance to your steps as you walk the tightrope of life." Finally came fourth year, the true gift for the first three. Sure, there were sub-Is, board exams, away rotations, and that interview trial that I heard so much about. But let's be honest, in the words of an all-too-familiar steroid biochemist, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. During my sub-internship in family medicine, I learned perhaps the greatest gift of all is to be with patients and their loved ones as death approaches. So much of our training is focused on diagnosing and treating, on giving life and promoting health. I realized, however, that the opportunity to comfort, to serve those dying, and to be present to those that person is leaving behind is among the greatest gifts we as physicians have in our lives. A gift granted to only a lucky few, and how truly lucky we are. As my grandmother used to say, your presence is the best present you can ever give someone. To our families, friends, and significant others present here today, you probably think that you're here to celebrate us, but I think I can confidently speak on behalf of my class when I say that really, we're here to celebrate you, the people that got us here. The laundry, the cards, the calls, the consoling, the dinners, the prayers, the love. It goes without saying we would not have the MD after our names today if it wasn't for each one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, but I realize the words thank you will just never be enough for all that you have done for us. I just want you to know that it will never be forgotten. To my colleagues, the class of 2011, these last 4 years has been a ride like no other, and I truly could not have handpicked a better group of people to share this very unique, fulfilling journey with. I mean, what other medical student class can say they have their very own rock band, Hot Stance? Greg, Drew, Chris, and Ben, a group of guys who can pull off a cover of Britney Spears better than she even can. We even had our very own baker, Stephanie Berger, able to whip up a batch of her famous rainbow cookies within a mere hour's notice. Steph, please don't forget there's still FedEx for us next year. I must admit, when I first came to medical school here, I was not thinking of the people I'd meet. Instead, I was thinking about how tough it was going to be, if I'd actually make it past those grueling licensing board exams. However, upon reflecting on the past 4 years when I came to write this speech, It's actually you, the people I met here that first come to mind, the friends that became family. I recall a particular day I was on an airplane, heading to Chicago to take my National Clinical Skills exam. Being the true friend that he is, Seth Berger agreed to help me study during the flight by posing as a patient for me to interview. Among all the possibilities he could have went with, Seth decided that the first patient he would choose would be a female. And not just a female, but a female with some unfortunate GYN issues. So as I began to take his full menstrual history, our study session was quickly cut short by all the women laughing, sitting next to us on the plane as they burst into laughter. This is just one example of many that shows how we as a class would really do just about anything and everything to support each other and see us through to the end. As you leave here today to begin saving lives from New York to California to Florida and nearly everywhere in between, I urge you to never forget your humble beginnings here on the shorelines of Lake Erie, in a place that smells like Cheerios on a good day, a small city called Buffalo, New York. In the words of a late Tim Russert, to be anything or go anywhere, you need to know where you came from. Please come back to visit me often. During these last couple months, I've been asked several times, would I do it all over again? It took me a while to answer this. Although I do not think I'd want to do it twice, I surely wouldn't not do it once. Think back on all the things that we've been privileged to see and do these last 4 years. Dissecting a real human body to learn every muscle, bone, nerve, and vessel. Helping to bring a new baby into this world. Assisting in a surgery to remove a life-threatening cancer. Helping to provide care to a schizophrenic patient who continues to hear angry, frightening voices inside his head as he tries to lead a normal life. These are things a very fortunate, select few will ever get to experience in their lives. I certainly wouldn't trade these last 4 years for anything in the world, and I hope that each of you can say the same. To the class of 2011, it's been a blast. Good luck and congratulations.
Thank you, Michael. Next, I would like to invite Shefali Sharma and Gregory Sherman to the stage to dedicate the school's yearbook, Iris.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure working on this. Utmost thanks to the class who made this easy on us, except for a couple, last-minute emails that we had to send out, for making this an absolute pleasure to do, to organize. So when we first sat down, we had 216 blank pages staring at us in the face, and I think that our resounding reaction was one of these. What are we going to do? You made it easy, so thank you. Parents, thank you so much for the baby pictures, especially Anna Hayes' baby picture. I spent about 10 minutes laughing when I first opened that up, so the Hayes', thank you for that. And thank you for allowing us to put together this book of memories for all of you.
This year's yearbook is dedicated to an individual who was crucial to our academic years going very smoothly, and she always did it with a smile on her face. So we would like to present it to Nancy Cronk, and accepting on her behalf is her son, Toby.
Well, my mom just wanted to say she wishes she could be here today. She felt truly blessed to have worked here for 41 years, and she thanks you all. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to invite Dr. Cheryl Nosek and her husband, Mr. Walter Nosek, to come forward for the presentation of the Parents' Council gift. Cheryl and Wally.
It's a great pleasure for Walter and I to be here today as proud parents and chair of the UB Medical School Parents Council, and we also want to extend our heartfelt congratulations to all of today's graduates. The council would like to thank the medical school administration for their guidance and support. A special thank you goes to Debbie Stam, Mary Schaus, Ray Dannenhofer, and Darren Bitterman for their continuing commitment to the council. The Parents' Council hopes that those who attended last night's dinner dance had a wonderful evening. The Parents' Council has contributed to and supported the students over the years in many areas of their academic, professional, and social lives. These include the white coat ceremony, conferences, student dinners, the match day gift, and summer externships. Walter and I are happy to present this composite picture. Dr. Kane, on behalf of the Parents' Council, we would like to present this photograph of the graduating class of 2011 to the medical school.